Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC. It is time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time on Friday night against the Milwaukee Bucks, a potential first-round series matchup here in the Eastern Conference, whether it be the Knicks staying at 3 and the Bucks unfortunately falling to 6, or maybe this is the 4-5 in a couple of weeks. These two teams have matched up twice earlier this year in games that I can barely remember. The first one was one of the first 8 or 9 games of the season, and the Bucks were still figuring things out. They had just made a starting lineup change. The second one was a Sunday matinee, which no visitor is usually done well at Madison Square Garden. So not much to take away from the previous two matchups if you're an optimistic Knicks fan, but the Knicks do come into this matchup officially playoff bound. They have clinched a playoff berth for the third year in a row. So to any Knicks fan that hasn't enjoyed this season, please remember how many years we went without making the playoffs 1 year in a row before we get upset about the third consecutive playoff berth. And that also leads me to my guest today, and specifically the team we're going to be talking about, the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, on paper, they've got an MVP candidate. We'll see what's up with Dame Lillard. I got a ton of questions about what that could potentially look like come playoff time. But our old friend Doc Rivers, once a Knick, always a Knick, once a Tibbs boss, always a Tibbs boss, maybe. I know they like going back and forth with each other. But I'm going to approach this conversation from the perspective of we might be seeing a lot of each other in a couple of weeks. And joining me, a guy I always like seeing regardless of whether the Knicks are potentially playing the Bucks in a playoff matchup, from the Gyro Step Podcast. Didn't need to correct myself even once this time. The GSPN, the Eurosport Podcast Network, where you can get all your Wisconsin sports-based needs, the Brewers, the Packers, the Bucks, even Wisconsin Badgers. Ti Windisch. Ti, welcome back to Knicks Film School.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it as always. And, you said Knicks fans can't take too much away. Bucks fans not feeling great about this particular matchup, I think. So
Really?
We have maybe differing opinions there.
So from what angle? Is it like just tonight you talking about? Because Dame is obviously going through what he's going through, and Giannis is missed the last game, may miss tonight.
Yeah.
Are you just talking tonight, or are you talking first round?
No, tonight I think is looking rough. I would say, and I'm sure you were going to ask, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil this. I'm going to say right now, coin flip on if Giannis plays or not. I don't have a firm feeling either way. He's questionable. I think he'd really like to. This is, well, I guess it depends. We'll see what the Pacers do. This is, if the Knicks hold 3, the last chance for the Bucks to beat a top 3 seed in the East this season. They have not beat the Knicks, the Cavaliers, or the Celtics, which doesn't feel great when you have Dame and Giannis on the roster, and those two guys played in at least several of those games. But overall, I think Karl Anthony Towns is such a problem for Brook Lopez and the way the Bucks want to play basketball. And even with Jalen Brunson, I know he's not going to play in this game. He's obviously so crucial, but still, you always have an offense with a stretch 5 like that. And I just think that, and my personal opinion is that OG Anunoby is one of the finer Giannis Antetokounmpo defenders in the Eastern Conference. And the Bucks have been not creative enough, and there's just been a lot of like, Giannis, go take OG. It hasn't worked well for them. And they're not a team that's been able to take advantage of Towns at the rim and, the percentages there and everything. So with Dame, we'll get to him, at least not tonight playing. I just don't know if the Bucks can take advantage of the Knicks the way they need to enough in terms of matchups.
So it's interesting you start there with your pessimism about the game. Now I'll counter with some of my pessimism, which I do. Look, I think if Giannis doesn't play, obviously advantage Knicks. The Knicks would have the only all-star. No disrespect to Kyle Kuzma, but I like my chances if he's potentially the best offensive player on the court tonight.
You're really disrespecting Brook Lopez.
I apologize to Brook.
That's the real disrespect.
I was going to say I apologize to Middleton, but he's not there anymore.
Wow. Oh,
apologies.
Oh,
I know that hurts you guys. Look, yes, Cat is great. Like, I have very much come to love Karl Anthony Towns this season. It's the best development I could tell you about the 2025 Knicks is my appreciation for Karl Anthony Towns, the basketball player, appreciation for Karl Anthony Towns, the person. The reality is the Knicks' top 5, 10, whatever offense is largely driven this season by Jalen Brunson. And the game since he's gotten down, they're only 5-5. They're not like they didn't fall off a cliff completely. They're not a contender or borderline contender anymore. They're not. They're probably like a middle of the pack 500 playing team without Jalen Brunson. They've largely turned back to the first year of Tibbs, where Julius Randle won Most Improved Player, and they had a bottom 10 offense but a top 10 defense, and they were leaning into that when Jalen Brunson went down. And it's like, listen, we're just going to keep teams under 100, and hopefully we get to 100 and score enough points. Not only is Jalen Brunson down, but Deuce McBride is out with a strained groin. We'll see it. Oh, no, he's officially ruled out for this game.
Yeah.
Campaign, once a buck, always a buck, no longer is also out with a sprained ankle. So the Knicks will be on their fourth point guard.
Oh, my God.
The way that Tibbs is going to go with this. It's either rookie Tyler Kolek, who, if you ask people here, he should have been getting playing time, but similar to Doc, I'm assuming an older head coach is going to probably not trust a rookie as much. It might be DeLon Wright, once a buck, always a buck, that may potentially start tonight. They may go
Milwaukee guy either way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if anyone on earth would call DeLon Wright a Milwaukee guy, but players with Milwaukee connections in the last year either way, I guess.
Right. So like the guy that we traded Jericho Sims for may end up starting against the Bucks in his revenge game tonight. And then you add in they potentially could just say screw the point guard position and go to Josh Hart as a point guard, and everybody takes turns bringing the ball up. The point I'm going to is that they don't have a way to generate advantages on offense at the moment. The example that we just saw in the Clippers game, the Knicks with a lot of fancy passing, a lot of back cuts, and a lot of ball movement were sustainable for about 2 quarters of offense. And then a very good Clippers defense held the Knicks to like 60 points over the next 3. With the exception of like a late OG Anunoby barrage that made it potentially a closer game than it actually was in the final minutes. So I do worry about the Knicks' ability to generate points. Outside of ball movement, they just don't have guys that can generate easy offense at the moment, which, look, this is where Tom Thibodeau has to make his earnings and scheme some things, but I just don't know how you could scheme. Like, they don't have a Hartenstein that you could just create a hub. As good as I think Cat is, look, the matchups where he ends up with Lopez on him, he'll take advantage of that. I think the path to him getting 30 points is there tonight. But yeah, they're gonna have to be really creative if they're gonna win this game on the offensive end.
Well, I think Giannis's availability is huge in that. I mean, it's huge in every regard. But Jericho Sims, I don't know if you're aware, had become a cult hero. Bucks fans absolutely love Jericho Sims. And of course, in true last couple of years Bucks fashion, he's out with a thumb surgery through playoffs-ish. Through around the start of the playoffs is when they're hoping he can return. He got the surgery ASAP to try and be back by then. Would have been an awesome opportunity for him because, as you know, more of a mobile big, but also can get up and protect the rim, which Portis they've tried on Towns as well, and he's more mobile than Lopez, but still not really a rim protector, right? Really more of a big 4, another former Nick Bucks big here. All the Bucks bigs except Giannis, I guess, are former New York players, including Brooke. But if Giannis doesn't go, the backup center is Kyle Kuzma, who, again, I think one of the underrated things about Towns is the Bucks tried Portis against him in game 2, and he bullied him, right? Like he did more than I'm used to seeing him kind of use that strength as well as his relative quickness. And I'm sure like he's going to be able to do that to Kyle Kuzma as well. So if Giannis does not play or is limited, I don't know what the Bucks are going to do. I mean, you can't, if you try and collapse on him too much, you're obviously going to leave those perimeter players pretty wide open. Maybe that's just a bet the Bucks try to take at times in this game and try to rely on rotations and, hope that Hart and Bridges don't really have it. I know Bridges, though, has bounced back after that slow start to the year, shooting the ball in a big way. So, I think that's going to be the big thing for the Knicks in this game is, depending on Giannis' status, how much can Towns set the tone? Because realistically, if there's no Giannis, there's just nobody left. I mean, Portis is suspended through early April. There's no one left who can really guard him. Lopez will try. They matched Lopez's minutes to Jokic. I thought he did a good job, which means 39-point triple-double, right? Like he's not going to shut down elite offensive centers at this stage in his career. So that's going to be the uphill sledding part for the Bucks in this game.
So this actually leads to the bigger picture question that I have for you, Ty, because like you're talking about a team that it sounds similar to where the Knicks are, that we're just trying to get to April 15th, which I believe is the day after the regular season ends. Because the 11th is the Friday.
No, it's
12th,
13th. 14th. I think
14th is the day the regular season ends. Yeah. The week before Easter. You're right. So the 13th is like we're just all trying to get to the end of the season, game 82, and hopefully haven't fallen that far. I mean, obviously the Bucks aren't going to fall into the play-in, but look, the Hawks, the Hawks and the Magic are not going to catch you. Come on,
the Hawks could take the
Hawks would have
to series. They could take the season series. They have a game left against the Bucks thanks to the IST.
So you think they could catch 6 games on
the
Bucks?
It would be pretty tough. 5 in the loss column.
9.
5 in the loss.
No, 6 in the loss column. The Hawks have 38 losses. I think they lost last night.
They lost last night. Okay, I checked this yesterday. So probably not. No.
So the point is, there's a world where the Bucks are the 6th seed because of how banged up they are, and it's like, yes, you'd like to win this game tonight against the banged up Knicks team, but maybe you don't want to show anything because this might be your first round matchup against the banged up Knicks team. And look, as coming from the Knicks world, we're just trying to hold off Indiana and what they are at the moment.
Good luck. We tried that too. It's tough.
So I'm wondering if the Knicks are, I mean, look, it's Tibbs, so he's not going to be thinking like, well, let's just the next 9 games is what matters, not the next one. No, he's like, the game in front of me is what matters. I will do everything I can to win it my way. I think this being the potential first round matchup, I think both of us potentially have the same perspective that it's like, if I want to go into the playoffs with this type of banged up team and we had to like limp our way to the finish line, I definitely don't want Detroit waiting for me. I definitely don't want Indiana waiting for me. I would take the Knicks. Is that your perspective watching, the Knicks? I know how the Bucks have struggled so far this year, but of the 3 teams that the Bucks could potentially face, do the Knicks go to the top of the list? Or are you kind of hoping for Detroit and to give us a chance at that?
What's the Brunson injury status?
So he's getting reevaluated literally tomorrow.
Right.
I think in a different world, he's like back next week. I think they are prioritizing, like, medical has taken over the conversation and not let Tom Thibodeau do it.
Not gonna like miss playoffs though, is the thought.
No. We haven't heard anything that detrimental. Okay. He's already out of a walking boot. He's sitting on the sideline of games and he's doing like pool work and shoot around and
That's all I needed to know. I would still rather see the Knicks least.
Wow. Less than the Pacers.
Yeah, I'd rather see the Pistons first. As fun as they are, to me, it's one guy. And the other teams, I think it's multiple guys. And we can break it down with simple math. I don't really look at it this simplistically, but the Pacers, I see 2 guys, and they have good role players. The Bucks learned that in the playoffs. But on the other end, even if Dame is not in that series, Giannis just obliterates their team. So if a couple Bucks shooters show up, I like the Bucks' chances there. The Knicks, like I said, I think OG has a better shot of guarding Giannis than anybody on Indiana's roster. And I think the Brunson-Towns combination is better offensively than anything these other teams have. And you throw in, Mikhail and OG, right? Like, there's just more talent. And so even though things are what they are now, I'm not going to buy too much into these slides for some of these teams and these hot streaks from others that, as we well know, watching all these games for our respective teams, Bucks don't have Dame and Giannis. The Knicks don't have Brunson, who's their offense. If he's really healthy the last 5 games of the year going into the playoffs, I don't care what their record was the last month and a half. I look at that team and go, they're going to be a huge problem for anyone. Maybe not for the top 2 teams who it feels like are ready to buzzsaw through everybody else in the East right now. But for all of us other teams down here in the muck, in the congested part of the standings, that they're going to be a problem. So I would rather, if the Bucks are going to stay in 6, which it kind of feels like they are, I would probably rather the Pacers get up there and get a shot at that rematch versus trying to play the Knicks in MSG.
So what's interesting? We've asked this question a lot in Knicks land. Of the 3 teams you could face, who do you want the least? And Detroit usually comes up No. So Indiana comes up as the least, but Detroit comes up as the team you'd want to face in the first round. There's become an emphasis, and I think it's become even a talking point on some of the cable shows. I'll just say First Take, like it's now like the hot take to say the Knicks would actually win that series over a Detroit team, but the Bucks have become the team that a lot of Knicks fans are like, hey, we do well against Dame and Giannis. And in theory, I actually do understand it. Like the Bucks play a lot of drop. Brunson murders drop.
Yeah.
The Anunoby defense of Giannis is there. I think Tibbs versus Doc is kind of a wash at this point.
Yeah.
As far as the coaching advantage, a lot of similar principles. And it just comes down to like if you're really just focusing on two guys, and no disrespect to Kyle Kuzma, but he's not the scariest of third options. It becomes very similar to that Sixers series last year, where I think it would be close, but you're really like focusing on two guys, and if they go off, then nobody else does. You like your chances. But the Pacers, they create this like every angle attack of on the offensive side, but there's just no pushback defensively that you feel like you can outscore them or try to outscore them by getting whatever you want. I know a lot of Knicks fans also want a little revenge from last year with the Halliburton t-shirt. Well, I'm sure, you understand it as well, that it's like, so it's fascinating that you're like, I want to see the Knicks least. And here in New York, the conversation has become, I want to see the Pacers least. And the Bucks have been like, after the Pistons, I'd like to take my chances with Giannis. And when I say that, do you say careful what you wish for? Or are you I get it. Like, I'd rather, because of like the conversations we've had, right?
I say both. The Bucks team, the way the Bucks team has looked all year, then I think, and especially in the matchups, if I was a Knicks fan, I would be like, bring on that team again. Why not? What success has Milwaukee had against the Knicks in this era? Zero, zilch. And that's with Dame. I don't know if he's going to be playing by the playoffs. The report is like there's optimism. We, like on our show and network, are kind of like pumping the brakes on that because, there was optimism Giannis could be back too last year if the series was extended, and not even close and never ended up playing. And this just usually is like a several month treatment for this deep vein thrombosis, this blood clot issue. And it's been like 3 days. And we went over the dates, maybe we don't have the exact dates. 1 month takes us like past the first round at this point. So I just don't see that as a realistic option. We'll see if there's some advance in medical science or something like that. So it's not the same Bucks team. That said, we saw Giannis push the Eastern Conference champion Celtics to 7 games with Drew Holiday and 0 games of Chris Middleton in that series. And they were up in game 6 and kind of blew it. Tatum was sensational to end that game. Mind you, there's no Drew Holiday here, obviously, so that's a pretty big difference. But that player, Giannis, when he's been healthy in the playoffs, has basically been just a guaranteed force of 30-some-odd points, 15-ish rebounds, high assist numbers. And the Bucks do have 3 pretty elite shooters, which has been a good recipe to pair with him in Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, and AJ Green, who had kind of slumped but broke out of it a little bit against the Nuggets. They've gotten some decent guard play out of Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. Obviously, no Damian Lillard there or no Drew Holiday there, but they're trying to figure it out. I think the other issue for the Bucks, though, in that potential series is I don't know how they're going to guard Brunson. They've never had good answers on doing this. Andre Jackson Jr., who they've used before, is kind of out of the rotation right now. They would probably try Prince or Kuzma at the moment, which Kuzma's had some success. He's been a good defender for the Bucks, but then like who's guarding your wing players? So that's, I think they're going to be a big issue for the Bucks in this matchup as well. Not tonight, or not tonight, but in a series.
Right. This is something I was actually curious about. The Andre Jackson Jr. I saw they played 8 guys against the Suns the other night, and that like Jackson didn't even make the rotation. He was the guy that I thought they would pivot to be like, you're guarding Brunson, you're quote unquote Brunson stopper, like the Aaron Neesmiths of the world, right? Yeah. Where you're not necessarily good at stopping Brunson unless he's injured. Yeah. But it's why I understand Knicks fans that are like, give me the Bucks. Like, yes, Giannis is terrifying. He should probably finish top 3 or 4 in MVP this year. I would take my chance with our guys matched up against their guys. And look, the Dame thing is sad because I don't want to say like, especially without Dame
Well,
from the
but it's
sports world,
true.
like from the
Yeah.
human side, it's like,
Yeah.
damn, like this guy's career is first and foremost, so we'll see. I have a bit of a big picture, like your perspective question from a Knicks standpoint.
Oh boy.
So like this has been the conversation over the last couple of weeks that like they're on pace to win 50 games for their second straight season. They haven't done that since 1994, I believe. It was 93, 94 was the last time they did that. Those back-to-back seasons. The way the franchise has gone has been a punchline. Like they, especially this decade under James Dolan, and the way things have turned around under Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau is impressive. It's appreciated. And when I tell you the majority of the comments I see, the majority of the interactions I have, and really just the general vibes I get around the Knicks are like, this team's not my thing, like not my cup of tea. I missed last year's team that was struggling to get over 500 until we got Anunoby back, and the play that, but I do get it. Like I adored that team, and it means a ton to me too. Recognizing this team, non-January when Randall and Hartenstein and all of them were healthy, like was probably better than last year's team. I know the Bucks went through a period of time where they were also not in like in any version of what the Knicks wilderness was, but then they turned things around. And obviously Giannis had a lot to do with that, and Jalen Brunson had a lot to do with us. And I guess, did it ever get to a point where 50-win seasons were just like, not my vibe? Like, did you ever experience this covering the Bucks or just as a Bucks fan? As like, did 50-win seasons get boring to you?
A little bit, and now looking back, it's like, you idiot. Like, what are you talking about? So that's what I would say to the Knicks fans who are like, I don't like the way we're winning 50. Is I don't like the way the Bucks are 40 and 32 right now and struggling to not drop into 7, even with Giannis still here. Like, it can go a lot faster than you think. And it's funny, the difference in perspective, because I did a pod, the Mad Boosties pod with Miles and Jack, and one of them is a Sixers fan. Like, the Bucks. And he's like, oh, is it tough? Is it tough with Giannis and Dame being, in the playoff picture? Because we're trying to tank right now. We're 23 and 50 at the moment. So, but no, I think it's fair to say to a certain extent, especially, I think the Bucks, this was the Bucks last year of like, we had all the offseason hype. We got the player. It wasn't as singular of a force as Dame for the Knicks, but it's like, okay, we got the super lineup. We broke up the Nova Knicks, but we got this amazing 5 now. Like, we're really ready to go. And they kind of did and then have fallen off. So I think it's fair. And I think that was the same for Bucks fans last year. There was the coaching thing and everything, but it was like, okay, we were supposed to, win 60 games. We have Dame and Giannis. They're supposed to be unstoppable. And then they don't even get to play in the playoffs. But I think ultimately the way I feel at this point is you're still a really good team. You're going to win 50. You've got a lot of great talent. And I think that is the thing. Maybe it's not all totally clicked throughout the year. They do have an extremely talented 5. I remember in the offseason saying kind of like the great value Celtics team of just like, there's just a lot of matchup problems because it's just a lot of different talent here, including the stretch 5. No, I guess that is inherently offensive, but it's also a good thing. The Bucks don't.
It's
even
funny, like the Dollar Tree version of the Celtics. I get it. Yeah,
I mean, but that's still good. And if you do get healthy going into the playoffs, just don't take that for granted because you just never know. Like, look at the Bucks the last 4 years now. You just never know if you're going to get that run or who else is going to have injuries. So I would try to enjoy this if I was a Knicks fan every single moment, especially knowing you could get hot. You could beat on pretty much anyone, I think, if the series went right for you. And those years don't come along. And I don't have to tell that to Knicks fans. I know it's been tough, but like even just having a real chance doesn't come along often. So I would try to not take it for granted personally. And I do try to do the same with the Bucks.
I'm trying. Believe me, I'm trying. I think the vibe after wins is just not like, so Tyler Kolek has become this rookie, this out of Marquette.
There's always someone.
Yeah. So I've thought, especially when Brunson went down, that they should have given him a look. Like, why not? You're down a point guard. And there was some pushback to some of the more stern Tom Thibodeau supporters. And I think like what you've seen from Tyler Kolek so far is like, yeah, against bad teams, he could probably facilitate really well. Like not really that much of a threat to shoot. And I say this because he might start tonight and you might get a good look at Tyler Kolek.
Yeah.
Then this past game against the Clippers, the first half, you saw him play at the second unit and it looked fine. And then Campaign came back in and looked like good with the starters. And then he got hurt. And you started to see him get a little bit exposed in the third quarter. Tough assignment when like, okay, go guard James Harden in like your fifth professional game. Yeah, I look at the reaction to Tyler Kolek being like, as someone who makes the content, like the generator of the views, not the like, oh, solid wins across the board for a team that went like a couple decades without consistent solid wins. The last question before we get to the chat, because I see people wanting us to ask their questions, like the end of the road with Coach Bud, knowing that I know things were rocky there, and this is just what comes with the team with expectations as you turn to the head coach. And like I have my frustrations with Tom Thibodeau, and I think I'm at the point where I'd welcome a change, but I don't know if it's warranted yet. I also think it's gonna be like if Jalen Brunson wants them to keep Tibbs, they'll keep Tibbs. Did you ever get this sense that he was being scapegoated too much? I think we might have talked about this over the years, that like coaches always get this. Like, was there a point where you were like, oh, the Bud, and like the guy won a title with the Bucks too. Like, how was the end of the road with Bud? Now it might this also your perspective might be a little different because it was a very quick end of the road because of what happened in that first round. But if you could talk a little bit to that and how it might relate to what Knicks fans are feeling with Tibbs right now.
Yeah, I think it was still the right decision. I just think they then botched that summer, and it's hard, especially with what's going on this year. Kenny Atkinson was high on all of our boards. I remember at the time it was Atkinson, and then the dream actually was Ty Lue, because I don't know if you recall, there was like he might be available, and it's like, okay, that's obviously a slam dunk, right? I think that guy is maximized. The Clippers have been disappointing. I wouldn't put that on Ty Lue, and I think the Clippers smartly have not done the thing so many teams do, which I call tab FTC. Things are bad, fire the coach. That's like such a default for not just fans, but actual organizations where, sometimes it makes no sense. I mean, I get you just need a reset from time to time, but there's so many things out of a coach's control. That said, I think Budenholzer was too slow to adapt, was too slow to start switching. Like you look 2019 Raptors series, like Kawhi guarded Giannis, really never put Giannis on Kawhi, which could have helped shift things there, and a few other things. And I think the other thing off court was there had been a disconnect with kind of the coaching and the players at a certain point. And actually, people laugh at this outside of Milwaukee. We're the only fan base that likes him. Darvin Ham was really important. He was kind of the bridge between the players and the coaching staff. And he went to LA, and then it seemed like there was just not that same connection or buy-in maybe with the Bucks and Bud. So unfortunately, Bud had some horrible family circumstances that year. There was a ton going on as well as the injury to Giannis, but it was too many disappointments. And I do think the team had just kind of tuned him out a bit. Now I wonder, do they give him another ride if they knew they could get Damian Lillard in a few months? That's obviously a complicating factor because their whole issue was half-court offense, and they kind of got to solve for that, but then a defensive issue that they haven't been able to really solve since, although Doc's done a good job this year. But I think the question should not be just binary, is the team like winning it all, or are they getting better every single year or not? The question should be, is the coach maximizing this? Is the buy-in still there and the chemistry with the players and those sorts of things more than just strictly results? And I can't speak fully to that with Tibbs. I'm not totally locked in, but you see them near the top of the East again, and it seems like Brunson and the players really get on with him well. I would be hesitant to make a move this year because, as the Bucks saw, having to mutiny their coach, 3 months after he started, basically, it sounds great, but you really got to nail the hire, and there's no guarantee that that's going to happen out there.
So I went into that question wondering if the situations could be similar because of how quickly things turned on Bud after that Heat series, right? And you just spoke to literally every Tibbs frustration, the inability to adapt. They've been playing drop all year, not switching up the defensive schemes enough. The ability to adapt to your personnel. They never play 5 out. Like, I know they technically do because they have a stretch 5, but like Josh Hart is not a shooter. So they just teams just put their center on Josh Hart, and then Cat's never being guarded by a center, which is part of the advantage, is that the rim's open. No, a center is usually sagging off of Josh Hart. In crunch time, Cat's like not factored into the offense because they're just bringing Josh Hart into the action and letting Brunson cook.
Yeah.
And look, as far as the players' relationship with him, I think their best player is good with him, with Brunson. As far as I know, Cat's pretty good with him. I don't know if you caught this, but the Mikal Bridges gate that happened on the most recent road trip.
It's so funny. Mikal clearly just like tired of being run to ragged, and he frames it as like, no, Landry Shamet needs a shot, coach.
Yeah, please.
I'm fine, but let's get Landry in the game.
Look, I don't know. I think it's going to honestly depend.
Yeah.
What the playoffs happen. Like, if they lose in the first round, I do think it's curtains on the Thibodeau era. They, like you said, they go into the playoffs healthy. You know, we'll see what happens with Brunson's ankle. We'll see what happens with Jason Tatum's ankle. We'll see if Porzingis is available. They get to the second round, give the Celtics a series. That's something to build on, and potentially now into a transaction cycle where you can add to the depth and get guys that he trusts. I would love more flexibility of Tom Thibodeau. You're right. The grass isn't always greener. Now, it's funny. You're like, I see them at the top of the standings, and that's usually a thing that you point to as how could you fire the coach? Everybody outside the Knicks bubble tells me this. And it's like, oh yeah, the Knicks are good. Look what number 3 in a loaded Eastern Conference. You ask anybody in Knicks land, it's like, yeah, without the coach, we'd probably be like significantly higher in the standings or more competitive in the standings. So we'll see what happens come playoff time. That's really what's going to be the judgment. So, to the questions in the live chat, we'll start with the unserious one. Busy with the first question. Why are these pods always late? Busy, you haven't asked that in a while because I've been on time for so many times. Today we were late because I sent the wrong link to Ty.
That's what happened. We late on purpose.
I was just sitting here waiting, like, where's Ty? Oh yeah, I sent them the wrong link. So today is actually my fault. The next one from Armand Burdenage. Sorry I missed you last night at the town hall, Armand. I had some personal stuff come up, but I'm glad to see that you're at these things, and I look forward to hopefully seeing at the next one. As he asks, how confident would Bucks fans be if they knew that this was a Knicks Film School event tonight? Yes, tonight is a Knicks Film School watch party.
I know the lore here.
Yeah.
That's very funny. I will say they gave the Nuggets a game. I don't know if it was like a 4-point game late in the fourth, with Jokic playing, and again had a 39-point triple-double. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is the key game to make sure the Bucks floor is 6 here. If Giannis does or doesn't play, and they can pull off the upset. I mean, it feels like they're certainly due for one. They've had a lot of ugly games they should have won. They've not had many like, oh, can't believe they won that game. So we'll see.
So I'm just gonna put this on the screen. Knicks Film School watch party tonight at T Squared Social. Be there, beat T Squared. 8 o'clock tip-off. The Sweet 16 will be on. The Mets are playing the Houston Astros. All the sports will be on. You should be there. Whether the Bucks win or not because of us is been a question I've been asking all season. If maybe it's us that these teams keep beating us at these watch parties.
No wonder you want to talk about Tibbs. You kind of deflect the blame.
Exactly. The blame it get away from us. Dude, there's a stretch in January into February where the Knicks had like 4 losses total or 5 losses total. They were all watch parties. It was so annoying. Any day of the week we didn't have a watch party, they would win. So it was very annoying.
You doing all playoff games or what?
So that's the thing. Last year during the playoffs, we went 6-2. Like,
okay. So maybe it stops there. I was gonna say maybe I do want the Knicks in the first round.
I watched them eliminate Joel Embiid last year in T Squared Social. Feeling. So as far as I'm concerned, there's playoff magic. It just might be regular season misery. So I'll start with a non-Giannis trade question. So Brian Martinez. If Jericho Sims gets more than 4 points, I'll be pretty pissed. Never seen an NBA player with less of a bag. Could you speak even further to the cult hero Jericho Sims has become since the Bucks acquired him?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian's right. I mean, he doesn't have any sort of a bag at all. His scoring range is basically at the rim, but the Bucks don't need him to. I mean, they've not had an athletic rim running lob threat and rim protecting center. I don't really count Giannis because he's obviously not a role player. Since kind of like years, like a very long time. And he's unlocked something that they just haven't had. It was either Giannis at the 5, which they don't love to do a lot, and Giannis doesn't love to do for big minutes, or Brook and or Portis at the 5, which just you're obviously limited with athleticism. And having Sims out there to switch and just go and try to catch lobs, right? That's really all he can do offensively. But that's okay because the Bucks have a lot of guys who either can or think they can create and open up advantages. So they really don't need a lot of role players who are trying to do a lot of things. So that's why it's been a really nice fit in Milwaukee. Is just they're willing to play him more. Doc's actually been a little more flexible than anticipated in playing young players just because of how many vets haven't worked out and how desperate the Bucks have been for that athleticism. And Sims developed really good pick and roll chemistry with both Dame and Kevin Porter Jr. and was catching those lobs. So no bag. He won't get more than 4 points because unfortunately he's out for probably another several weeks here, or a few weeks here, I should say. But you're right, but he's still awesome is my answer.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see Jericho find a home. He was misunderstood, I think, in New York. A lot of the comment sections blaming him for things when they're just certain things that were out of his control. And look, I actually think he's a very productive screener. I've been curious to see like him and Dame in the pick and roll.
Dude. Oh, it's so refreshing.
Yeah. So like we missed that when he was doing it with Brunson, and they actually had some good synergy together. So we'll see. So I'll go to Dirty Dancer here. Will the Knicks dance together when Tibbs is fired? What was your reaction when the Bucks did that after the Adrian Griffin firing? That's what he's referencing.
Yeah. They said it wasn't that. I think it was definitely. I've never seen them do that otherwise. I'll say that. Yeah, I was shocked when they fired him because you see the record, but then the stuff comes out that, one of the big things was late in games, like, Griffin's done some, like he schemed up a good play or like this innovative coverage. And at least it came out after that, like, no, he called something else. And the Bucks like the key players were like, no, we're going to do this instead.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, all right, you probably had to fire him then.
You weren't listening to the coach. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they went to Doc because of just like, for all his flaws, has gravitas, has respect around the league, even if media and fans don't share that sentiment. And I think the buy-in's been better with Doc. We'll see if that holds. I think it's been a little shaky lately, but I'll let you answer if the Knicks will. But the Bucks, probably not, because I don't think they're at a mutiny stage.
I think one player might, and it's Mikal Bridges. That's really it. I actually think the team generally loves Tibbs.
Yeah.
I know there's there was that blow up with Josh Hart, but I think Josh Hart needs that type of coach.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson. I mean, it's been said so many times on our show the last couple of days. Between Tim McMahon earlier this week, Chris Herring yesterday. I'll make sure my back is okay after that name I just dropped. Like all of them have talked about how Tibbs has known Jalen Brunson since he was a baby. Like, saw him in the hospital when he was born. So like, this is more than just, they should fire my coach so we can have a better one. No, it's like this uncle that I've known my whole life. It's why it's going to fall on Jalen Brunson. If he wants a new coach or is okay with a new coach, they might get a new one. I don't think it's going to be that easy. So
it's going to hurt the podcast.
Yeah, look, I don't know what the roommates are going to do if they get rid of their best guest. So we'll see. Anthony Sixto, curious about the Haslam's ownership. If Bucks fans are concerned at all, considering the history with the Browns.
Yeah, definitely. I will say there's more concern about things getting overruled. Whether it's Giannis's opinion, which has been talked about, not really confirmed. I think some people run with that more than, and obviously ownership is I think still very involved with the team. I will say on the flip side, the guy does cut the checks. So whether they're used well or not is obviously a huge consideration there, but the Bucks are quietly facing kind of a coaching and front office potential swap this year as well. What's going on with those guys? And I guess that's the one true positive is they are not afraid to spend. They've been aggressive with money, both cap and off the cap. But yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be considering the way that franchise has gone in Cleveland, the Browns. So it kind of, I feel like it kind of is what it is with ownership at this point. It feels like there's fewer and fewer that are just clearly good for their organization.
I'll be honest, the Dolan thing's not bad anymore.
No, he got out of the way now. He's quietly very good.
He's got this big dome or ball in Vegas that is just bleeding money, and
You
it's like his
gotta
only
distract
focus.
them. That's the
Listen,
key.
people keep writing articles about how bad the Sphere is, and then he'll just focus on that. Like being at Summer League, and when I tell you, every single taxi and Uber driver I spoke to was like, yeah, that Sphere is just bleeding money. We hate Dolan here. It's like, oh wow, you sound like a Knicks fan in the mid 2000s. Got it. It's like the number one thing that came up.
It's probably good for the Bucks that has them. I think still is probably more Browns focused. So it's
Yeah.
he kind of just pops in every so often. He watches the Bucks get killed in Cleveland, and then the coach gets fired soon after. Like little things like that. But I don't think he's there like daily.
So last question. I'm not gonna put there's a couple of them. Shout out to Busy. Shout out to Dirty Dancer.
Yeah.
Where are you with with the potential Giannis like future with the Bucks? And I'm how I like to go entire pods without asking.
No, it's a fair
I wanted to
question
spare
right now.
you this time.
It's a fair question right now.
So just like where are you and where are Bucks fans with like the state of Giannis's tenure with the Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, certainly cognizant. This is going to be a summer where, I mean, I was going to say more than in a while. They keep losing in the first round, so I guess it's kind of been omnipresent lately. Certainly, Giannis could choose to go somewhere this summer, and I think it would be relatively understandable, depending on how the playoffs go. It's difficult because it's kind of out of the Bucks' control. Some things, I don't think their team was good enough anyway, but also, it's going to be 4 straight playoffs where one of their top 3 players, a star level player, is unavailable for all or most of the series. And it's kind of had them DOA. Chris against the Celtics, Giannis against the Heat, Giannis and Dame against the Pacers. Like it's just, I'm forgetting one in there as well, but it's just been a really brutal, there's another Heat series in there. It's just been a really brutal injury run for them. And I think that's kind of part of the reason that, Giannis has given them the benefit of the doubt, and they've been aggressive. They go out and get Dame. This last summer with less resources, like they'll get Gary Trent and Taurean Prince, who are really nice minimums to kind of round out the team. Give it another go with Chris. That doesn't work. I do think, trading Chris and having the results be not great so far with Kuzma, big playoff series for like this iteration of the team, even if Dame's not able to play. Because now if Giannis is saying, okay, hopefully Dame's all right. He's obviously getting older. The Kuzma fit has not been good so far. Let's see how that goes in the playoffs. Brooke turns 37 in April, I believe, which is crazy. Like really what's going on and really what are we able to do? And then, does he ask that question? Does he wait to see what happens like he usually has? I don't know. I have no insight here outside of it feels like Bucks are playing with house money at this point with how long they've had him. I think he would like to stay, but I think he really wants to win as well. So it's probably on the table. I don't think the Knicks would have a very good shot, though, to be honest with you.
So there's some Cat or Anunoby
one
for ones.
No
and I just look, I think OKC is just staring at a Giannis trade if he ever becomes available, and they could just like here's Chet, or like this is the value of the Hartenstein contract that you can throw that type of money and into a deal, and the pick package that would probably be worth a Luka trade to actually go into a Giannis trade.
Mavs should have waited, man. I think they called the Bucks. I don't know if you've heard this theory.
No, they called the Bucks. Reported. They called the Timberwolves. Those I know are true that they did call them both. So
probably should have waited until the offseason to maybe revisit that one. Although I don't think Giannis would probably be interested, right? So maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think the Thunder are the team everyone's going to look at, and I don't even know. I mean, you need a young player. I mean, it'd be a restart. You're not going to. I hope they wouldn't try to go a Mavericks and be like, well, let's just win with Dame and 37-year-old Brook Lopez now. Like, we know the straw who stirs the drink.
I think the lesson a lot of front offices have learned throughout the season is never go full Nico Harrison. Never go full Nico Harrison. Ty, it's good to see you. I know you have to run, so I'll make this quick. Thank you, as always. Before you get out of here, let the fine folks at home know where they could find you and all your stuff.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on again and only doing one future Giannis question. I am on Twitter and on Blue Sky at Ti Windisch with .gspn.social after it on Blue Sky. And you can find the Gyro Step Podcast Network where our Bucks coverage is, wherever you check out this fantastic podcast. So go subscribe, rate, review, cook the books for both, please.
All right. So behind the scenes, if you do have to like fully run off, go ahead.
No. I got a couple minutes. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then thank you everybody for tuning in to this edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. As I mentioned, Knicks Bucks, T-Squared Social. Come join us for another Knicks Film School watch party. Potentially the way the Bucks get back to their winning ways is they play the Knicks on the night that we have a watch party. So be there, be T-Squared. I will be back potentially on Sunday when the Knicks play the Blazers. If not, they've got a Boston and a Cleveland matchup coming next week. So, I'll be back for those. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.